going through A Pluralistic Universe by William James. We're in Lecture 3 on Hegel and his method. I don't know if the camera will quite focus, but it looks like it got pretty close. And I'm mostly just reading. Well, I won't say there's no skimming, but I'm basically just going through the book here. I don't have a plan for talking about this. Part of the situation here is I want to learn this book better myself. So I'm not in a position to give you the lofty summary of the whole structure of everything in this book. What I can do is just read through it, and if you're interested in William James, well, I hope this is useful for clarifying some aspects of the text. Let's go to, let's see, page 2 of Lecture 3, and what James says about Hegel. He's just said something about Hegel's vision. He says, any author is easy if you can catch the center of his vision. The important thing about Hegel is his vision, not so much his particular arguments. The virtue was the vision, he says, which was really in two parts. The first part was that reason is all-inclusive. The second was that things are dialectic. Let me say a word about the second part of Hegel's vision. So Hegel has the famous dialectic. The 60-second summary you get in an intro to philosophy class is something like this. Well, you might refer to Hegel's understanding of reality as dialectical, or his understanding of history as dialectical, or his philosophical argumentation style as dialectical. And really, they're all the same thing, and they're all dialectical. And the 1 minute intro is something like, there's a thesis and there's an antithesis, some claim and some counterclaim that's contrasted with it, or some perspective, some alternative perspective. It might be a perspective expressed in history, because this is a philosophy of history, this is a philosophy of everything. It might be, in fact, some aspect of reality and some other aspect of reality that's in contrast with it. So whether you're talking about perspective expressed by a particular group of people or a particular moment in history, or whether you're talking about a particular aspect of reality, or whether you're talking about a particular theory, we have a thesis and an antithesis, and they're opposed in some way. They're contrasted, and then they're resolved, and there's a synthesis made of them. But that synthesis is then confronted by another alternative theory or perspective or aspect of reality, and they are again synthesized, and the process continues. And if it ever reaches a final synthesis, that final synthesis will be the mind of God, fully realized in human history, something like that. Okay, so now James is going to talk about Hegel's dialectic. Hegel says, the impression that any naive person who plants himself innocently in the flux of things is that things are off their balance. Whatever equilibriums our finite experiences attain to are but provisional. So it's an empirical fact that things don't seem quite right in the world. Hegel begins, James thinks, with a very genuine and important empirical insight, that things are dialectical in the sense James is about to try to explain. The important thing about Hegel's vision, well, one important thing anyway about Hegel's vision, is that it really does draw from some genuine facts of experience. The impression we get is that things are off balance. Whatever equilibriums our finite experiences attain to are but provisional. Martinique volcanoes shatter our Wordsworthian equilibrium with nature. Volcanoes, natural disasters, tsunamis, hurricanes. Accidents, either moral, mental, or physical, break up the slowly built-up equilibriums men reach in family life and in their civic and professional relations. Accidents do cause a lot of problems. Intellectual enigmas frustrate our scientific systems, and the ultimate cruelty of the universe upsets our religious attitudes and outlooks. Science can't get a complete comprehension of much of anything. There's always some, what does he say, anomaly? An intellectual enigma, or an anomaly, the sort of thing Thomas Kuhn talks about a lot. There are things that don't quite make sense. And the ultimate cruelty of the universe upsets our religious attitudes and outlooks. The problem of evil is a real problem. Religion, science, family life, social life, nations, our relationship with the world around us are all interrupted, are all put off balance by natural disasters, miscellaneous accidents, intellectual enigmas, and the ultimate cruelty of the universe. Of no special system of good attained does the universe recognize the value as sacred. The universe won't recognize any system of good we set up as sacred. Down it tumbles, over it goes to feed the ravenous appetite for destruction of the larger system of history in which it stood for a moment as a landing place and stepping stone. Things go wrong. They frustrate our ambitions to make an orderly world or to make sense of the world in an orderly way, and something messes it up, and the moment of order we built is passed over as history marches on to some future effort to make a better order. This dogging of everything by its negative, its fate, its undoing, this perpetual moving on to something future which shall supersede the present, this is the Hegelian intuition of the essential provisionality and consequent unreality of everything empirical and finite. Take any concrete finite thing and try to hold it fast. You cannot. Hegel caught this useful observation of the fact that everything we try to build, to construct, everything we try to arrange in an orderly fashion, whether it's in our ideas or in our relationships, family relationships, or whether it's in our civic relationships, or whether it's in the way we build the world with respect to, well, buildings, with respect to the environment around us. Everything's interrupted. Everything that is finite and known in experience is temporary. Something always ruins it, and history marches on towards our next great effort to construct an orderly world. All right, etc., etc. Any partial view, whatever, of the world tears the part out of its relations, leaves out some truth concerning it, is untrue of it, falsifies it. The full truth about anything involves more than that thing. In the end, nothing less than the whole of everything can be the truth of anything. Ultimately, there can't be any full truth about any particular thing until, in the hypothetical end of history, we have come up with the complete account of everything that explained everything and its very real opposition. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. New antithesis to that synthesis, new synthesis, and on and on. And every finite, orderly arrangement, think of that as a thesis, is always interrupted by something that messes it up. Think of that as the antithesis. And there's no ultimate comprehension of any single thing until we can explain both it and its opposition. Until there's no ultimate explanation of any orderly arrangement in human society until we've also understood not just it, well, there's no understanding of it until we've also understood its antithesis, the thing that interrupts it, the thing that messes it up. There's no explanation of a thing in science that can be complete until we've also taken account of the anomalies that threaten the scientific theory. There can be no explanation of anything until we've taken the truth of everything all together, taken so far and taken in the rough. Hegel is not only harmless but accurate. Hegel's right so far. There is a dialectic movement in things, if such it pleases you to call it, one that the whole constitution of concrete life establishes, but it is one that can be described and accounted for in terms of the pluralistic vision of things far more naturally than the monistic terms to which Hegel finally reduced it. So there is a dialectical movement. There is indeed this movement in our experience from our finite systems of order, our finite arrangements in, what was that list I kept giving? Our finite arrangements in how we arrange the world physically, like where we build our buildings, and how we arrange society, and how we arrange families, and how we arrange our scientific ideas, and how we arrange our religious ideas. In all of these things, there's always some unavoidable motion from the finite order we arrange and its conflict with whatever messes it up to the next order that tries to fix it more thoroughly, and then the next thing that interrupts that. There is indeed this motion. But Hegel then tried to reduce everything monistically to just one thing that explains everything, that encompasses everything, that fixes everything in one final absolute orderly arrangement, the mind of God, beyond any aspect of reality we currently have any access to. And James says, well, he's previewing the rest of his critique of Hegel here. This dialectic movement, this true aspect of history, can be described just as accurately, probably more accurately, by the pluralistic view, just as well as by the monist view, probably better. Pluralistic empiricism knows that everything is in an environment, a surrounding world of other things, and that if you leave it to work there, it will inevitably meet with friction and opposition from its neighbors, etc. But Hegel saw this undeniable characteristic of the world we live in a non-empirical light. Let the mental idea of the thing work in your thought all alone, he fancied, and just the same consequences will follow, etc. Hegel's originality lay in transporting the process from the sphere of percepts to that of concepts and treating it as the universal method by which every kind of life, logical, physical, or psychological, is mediated. Okay, so Hegel takes this very real observation from human experience, and then he tries to escape it with some sort of mental concept that will force everything into an orderly arrangement. When it would be probably more prudent to just stick with experience and see what sense we can make of experience on the terms of experience, drawing from experience, not saying, well, here's what we learned from experience about how every orderly arrangement we try to make is interrupted by something else, and we make a new orderly arrangement which is then interrupted by something else, and we keep going. That's a very real empirical observation, and it would be better to not start with that observation and then deny that observation by saying, I have an idea of some concept that can fix everything. It's better to stick with reality as we experience it. At least that would be James' advice. Not to the sensible facts as such, then, did Hegel point for the secret of what keeps existence going, but rather to the conceptual way of treating them. Etc., etc. Well, maybe I should read that. Concepts were not in his eyes the static, self-contained things that previous logicians had supposed, but were germinative and passed beyond themselves into each other by what he called their immanent dialectic. That's a lot of words. Maybe I should try to explain that. A concept is not a static, self-contained thing in Hegel. It always leaks over. What was the language he uses? Passes beyond itself into other concepts. A concept is not a single thing all by itself. In Hegel's thought, it leaks over into other concepts because a thing is not a thing in itself. It leaks over into other things. Everything is connected, and everything is intermingled with everything else. I think I will not read the next two sentences, but I will read two sentences after that. The only thing that is certain is that whatever you may say of his procedure, someone will accuse you of misunderstanding it. It's quite certain that whatever James or anyone else says about how Hegel, about what Hegel's doing, about how Hegel works, how Hegel's thinking, whatever anyone says about Hegel's style of philosophizing, someone will say, you misunderstood Hegel. And now James says, I make no claim to understanding it. I treat it merely impressionistically. So James says, I'm not even going to pretend to properly understand Hegel. I am explaining Hegel's way of thinking as it appears to me. And I say it looks like it starts with a very genuine insight, that we do have this dialectical motion in experience. But I think Hegel abandoned experience for some concept he tried to impose on experience that would force everything into an orderly arrangement. And I think we don't have to do that. I think there are some reasons to stick with experience and recognize not a monistic way of ordering everything, but some sort of pluralistic way of ordering everything, or at least ordering everything better. Okay, that's enough. More James remarking on Hegel next time. Thanks for watching.